So we are now firmly in the territory of the fifth remembrance, of focusing on Kamma. Fifth remembrance, my actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. And Fabiola really encouraged kind of noticing of pausing, the pause, the importance of the pause between stimulus and response, quoting Viktor Frankl in that. And Jay also focused on how what we do, what we say, what we think reverberates, ripples, the importance of ethics, sila in that. So really looking at responsibility here, responsibility for what we put out into the world. And while one of the translations of Kamma is action, another is intention. Intention, that motivation, the force, the impulse that drives our actions. The Buddha said, intention, I tell you, is Kamma. Intending, one does Kamma by way of body, speech, and intellect. And he goes on, and what is the cause by which Kamma comes into play? Contact is the cause by which Kamma comes into play. Contact, right? I think this is so important and simple, right? Because we can really understand as we come into contact at all sense doors with phenomena, sound, sight, smells, thoughts, etc., pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, we have reactions, right? Those reactions have a flavor and energy that can then kind of move us into action when we're not aware of them. So I'm going to just talk about this a little bit, intention. Let's focus on intention. And this idea, I think we can all recognize this, right? Maybe there's a moment of contact with something unpleasant, a sound or something like that. Someone gives us a strange look or is impatient with us in a moment, and aversion arises, right? Or attachment to self, needing to defend ourselves, like just so fast. And before we know it, we are doing something, saying something, grabbing for something. Fabiola talked about, right, how we can grab for food before we're even aware of it to soothe something that's happening in here that we may not even have slowed down enough to notice or be aware of. And I wanted to say, my experience, and I'm guessing it's true for all of us as we look at Kamma and intention, is like most of us are rarely motivated to act out of a conscious ill will, out of a conscious intention to harm someone, right? So what we're going to be looking at really is how often our motivations, our intentions are kind of mixed. They're mixed, and they may not always be exactly what we think they are. There may be that hint or flavor of irritability or judgment or not liking or discomfort. And it's so fast, right? It's just so fast and so constant. We're making contact with all that's happening just all the time. There's a wonderful dialogue, some of you may know, that I really wanted to bring in today between the Buddha and his son Rahula that I think really helps with this, right? How do we gently, kindly investigate and turn toward our actions and our intention? The Buddha, he says, "What do you think, Rahula? What is a mirror for?" Rahula says, "For reflection, sir." The Buddha says, "In the same way, Rahula, bodily acts, verbal acts, and mental acts are to be done with repeated reflection." Repeated reflection. He says, whenever you want to perform a bodily act, you should reflect on it. This bodily act I want to perform, would it lead to self-affliction to the affliction of others, or to both? Is it an unskillful bodily act with painful consequences, painful results? And that if it would be, right, we try to refrain. So whenever we want to, before, then he goes on, while you are performing a bodily act, right? Is it leading to self-affliction, the affliction of others, or both? And then having performed a bodily act afterward, you should reflect on it. Same thing. And afterward, if we reflect on it and realize, ooh, this really did cause maybe affliction to myself in some way or to others. I love this. He says, we really want to confess it, reveal it, lay it open to the teacher or to a knowledgeable companion in the holy life. Like spiritual friends, right? I did this thing, right? Didn't feel good. And then we want to exercise restraint in the future. So learning. And I love this, like before, during, and after, reflecting, being willing to look, right? A mirror. Take some courage to look at ourselves. Take some kindness in that way. And to do it in a way that doesn't bring more judgment, right? That non-identification is really important. If and this is like happened maybe 1,000,005 times, if I do something and realize, ooh, that really didn't feel good. I don't know that that was skillful. I see that, but then immediately the mind identifies myself as bad because of that. I'm going to be so much less willing to keep looking. I'm going to be so much less willing to stay in this reflection process and practice rather than, oh, it was a moment of wanting. It was a moment of aversion. How human, right? May I keep building a relationship with that, noticing when that's operating and present here. I do want to just name again, right? Our initial reactions in here that then can motivate us to act in the world, that process is so fast. That domino effect is so fast. I think this is part of why, when Jay talked about the importance of sila, ethical practice, why on retreat we take the precepts. We actually refrain from speech completely, for example. This is a way, and many of you have experienced this, of slowing ourselves down so that we can actually watch what's happening here. All those impulses to act, say, do, speak, right? We really get to see that, and it's such a gift. I also wanted to really briefly offer the concepts of hiri and ottappa here. I think they relate to the Buddha's teaching at the beginning on reflection. Hiri, both of these have kind of been translated at times as shame or moral shame, and I think that's a translation that might feel very heavy for us, coming often from a Judeo-Christian perspective. Here he is really wanting to protect ourselves from our own unskillfulness. Right? This is a lot of what Fabiola talked about. Like, oh, if I do this or when I did this, that didn't feel good in me, within myself, wasn't wholesome, caused harm here. And so caring for ourselves in that way helps us from acting unskillfully. And then ottappa is a fear of wrongdoing, not wanting to engage in that because of care and respect for others. Right? So really interesting that we hear the Buddha's teaching, affliction, will this cause affliction here to this being, to others? And hiri and ottappa are often coupled and described as the guardians of the world, lokapala. That felt really beautiful to me, so different from kind of like shame and more just these guardians, right? Of making sure we don't cause harm to ourselves and others. So I really just want to invite ourselves into this. And again, to echo that, again, saying this to myself as well, the reflecting, the investigation, the looking at in this practice is not to obsessively police or judge ourselves. Achan Shujito, I love this. He says, the Dhamma that leads to the end of Kamma is not me getting rid of my Kamma, because that intention and action to get rid of it would be Kamma, would be acting out of aversion, right? He says, let's say there's some negativity in me, and I think, I've got to get rid of my bad habits. Sound familiar to anyone? It definitely does to me. He says, that's not going to do it. It might be a nice idea from which to start, but it's not going to do it because that would be me trying to do it. Right? So what's motivating it is aversion and attachment to self, control. All that happens is we get a sense of negativity toward ourselves to stop being this way, stop being that way. This does not take us very far. A more effective approach, he says, involves touching into the good, attuning to the good, letting the good swell up and move. He talks about calming the mind and body, how that gives rise to good feeling. And then he says there is insight, looking into causes and conditions and understanding the nature of what is happening. Right? Really seeing what Kamma is showing us, cause and effect. He says when one sees, well, that's not necessary, that's just painful, one stops doing it. This is the abandonment of action. This is purifying our intention, right? Through wisdom and love, not through controlling and judging and perfectionism. So I just really want to invite us all, right, into this process of slowing down enough to really see what's happening here and how these moments of contact with pleasant, unpleasant, neutral can set off such motivation and impulse to act in the world. And just together trying to take more responsibility for that. So thank you. Thank you so much for your attention. See, we can just transition into the formal practice and really see what might support that. We don't always give enough time to transitions, right? So from listening, receiving, making sense of, to tuning in to these bodies here, stretching, opening, maybe standing if you need, shaking out, noticing the posture that you're in, maybe coming into one that's just a little more supportive or comfortable. Pay special attention to places that might gather tension for you, like the neck, the shoulders, the upper back, the brow. Even bringing a hand there if that helps. Maybe slowing the breath a bit or allowing it to deepen. Before letting it just resume its natural rhythm and pace. The eyes closing or having a soft focus can be that cue that it's okay to go inside. Nothing to do out there. Little bit of rest, resting in presence, in connection with ourselves, with this moment. And as you begin to arrive and steady the attention, maybe allowing it to rest with the movement of the breath, the coming and going of sounds. The offer is perhaps in moments just to notice what's here, right? That what is a mirror for? Just letting ourselves take a look and courageously, kindly notice the energies stirring, reactions to sounds and bodily sensations and thoughts arising. The flavor, the texture of those reactions. Just noticing them, just like waves. Whenever needed, coming back to the anchor, letting the attention rest and steady again. Noticing what's here, noticing what's here as we make contact with the body, with sounds, with thoughts, with feelings. Being on the cushion, a wonderful opportunity to notice that domino effect, to feel the impulse to do something, even imagining conversations, right, that can be happening. Being with the energy of that, allowing it to unwind, to have space to be just as it is, knowing we are not taking action out in the world right now. And being gentle with any mental action that we may be taking toward ourselves or others. Just noticing, noticing, receiving without judgment. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Give me one moment of that. I'll let you all unmute. And Andrew, I did see your chat. Thank you for that. I'm going to check on that tomorrow because I did try to put it on. So there's some new setting. We'll check it out tomorrow and see if it's on at the beginning. It's really important that people have a way to understand. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, friend.
Thank you,
everybody.
Catherine.
Have a good day.
Be well,
Thank you,
everyone.
Catherine.
Hey,
It's so
thank
lovely.
you.
Bye bye.
See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
See you
See
tomorrow.
you.
I know your
Lady.
heartfelt talk reached a lot of people, Catherine. Thank
This is
you.
amazing.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Is it
much. Have a
going
good
to
day.
be
That
Bye
was
for now.
really great.
at home?
Thank you.